every community, right, all of us were created with potential to fill a particular gap in the world. I know a lot of young people that have cut short their dreams because they do not have the proper mentorship and direction. And so I'm so much particular about the rural communities because I feel like they are left far behind. Young people like myself who are coming from humble backgrounds and from rural communities have something that God has given them. They do not have who to talk to, they do not have who to relate and share their ideas with, and to help them realize the potential and the gifts that they have.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with the Dreamers. I'm your host, Petronella Mnenja, and as always, I am so excited to be the one who platforms these amazing conversations of these phenomenal men and women who are doing and moving things in their personal lives, in the community, and in the world. And today, our guest, he is a very impressive, phenomenal young man. They call him Wordsmith Joel, all the way from Jos, Nigeria. He is the founder of Inspire and Impact Africa, a youth-led organization that equips teenagers and young adults. He has received awards because of the work that he does. And on top of all of this, he is still a student who is studying to work. So he has already started making change while he's still studying. That is the story we want to hear about. How did this happen? How did all this work out? And how did the story start? So without further ado, Mr. Joel, welcome to Conversations with the Dreamers.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here. I really sincerely appreciate this opportunity to have this conversation. I mean, it's, and I believe it's going to work every time, to be here. So once again, thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on. I think it's the passion that you carry. It's quite interesting and quite rare to see young men in this world today that are committed as much as you are to young people. So if you can start by telling us a little bit more about the work that you do and who you are before we go back and understand how the story began. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
So Nansel Joel, also known as Wordsmith, is just a young village boy, and I reach out to communities, particularly rural communities, and help young people, teenagers, young adults to discover themselves and to realize that they have a potential and to be able to fulfill the purpose that God has given to them. I know that in every community, right, all of us were created with potential and with a purpose to fill a particular gap in the world. And so, but I realized that even with the potential, if you do not have the proper direction, the proper guidance, you are not going to fulfill that potential or that purpose and to maximize that potential. I know a lot of young people that have cut short their dreams because they do not have the proper mentorship and direction. And so I'm so much particular about the rural communities because I feel like they are left far behind. Right. So you see that most of the things that people do, they target the cities, but I think that the rural communities should also, realize their potential, and they should also, experience that global opportunity, so that whenever they go out there, they should know what's happening in the world, so that they're not limited by their background and their environment. So this is what I am up to. And I think that my whole life is going to be about that because this to me is not just something I do, for pleasure, but I feel it's an assignment, by God. And if I do not do it, it's going to be a problem, at the end. So that's why I am so passionate and enthusiastic about the things that I do. Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful, Joel. I think it's when you're talking about the things that you do, the passion that you have, can be heard clearly. You really love the work that you do, and I truly wish you well. May the Lord continue guiding you and leading you on this path on. So let's go back to the story of the beginning of this story. How did your story start? Because I'm pretty sure that if I go out there and talk to a lot of young men, they're not thinking about purpose, changing lives, and stuff like that. That's something that's quite unique to you. So tell me, where were you born? How was your childhood like? How was this dreamer born? Where did his story start?
It actually started from somewhere, and it's an interesting story.
Mhm.
So I was born in a family of 15.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. One father and two mothers. That's he married two wives, right?
Mhm.
And so while growing up, I attended a government primary school in my community, which of course the one we could afford at that time.
Mhm.
And now there's something with I'm going to go personal right now, right? Because I
Mhm.
believe that I want to let young people know that sometimes it's not all about having a purpose, but you must be able to. So you know, in Africa, mostly if you're born in a polygamous family, you realize that most of the things that happen to you is so the energy comes from the mom,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yes, so the energy comes from the mom. It's more of like a competition or something.
Mhm.
So even when the father doesn't do much, it's the responsibility of the mom to try to see that her children become something in life, right? Now, this is in my own case, it wasn't like a competition, right? But because we do not have much, and so we were kind of limited like that. And so I went to a government primary school, and I did my from primary one to primary
Mhm.
six, and I finished, and then I went to a government secondary school.
Mhm.
Yes, and I started my JSS one there. And when I went, my JSS one, in fact, even when in primary school, I realized that there was something kind of different about me. So,
Mhm.
so when I went to JSS one, I was coming from let's say the town compared
Mhm.
to where my school was located, right? And
Mhm.
so I was coming from there. So whenever I go to school, the people in the school or my classmates, there's a way they look at this guy, and there's a way I felt then.
Mhm.
I felt like I was not supposed to be in this particular location.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes, but I didn't have a choice because my parents could not afford a private school.
Mhm.
Now,
Mhm.
in those days, private schools are the well-doing schools in my locality. So, yeah, my parents, in fact, when I was in JSS 3,
Mhm.
I insisted that my father should take me to a private school, and he refused. He said that he's not going to allow any of his children to leave school on the way. That is, wherever you start, that's where you finish. Now, that sounds like a very good excuse, but I felt that was out of pressure and uh, let me say lack of resources. So our parents have a way of twisting things, to cover up the whole thing. But I realized, and I knew that he didn't have money. It was when I began to grow up and realize that, yeah, the man has been doing a lot. My father, he has been doing a lot for me and my other siblings. So that was how I started the JS1 there, and I finished there. In my SS1, I became the timekeeper of the school. And of course, when I was in primary school, I was a timekeeper as well. Yes. So, and then I was given timekeeper in my SS1, and
Mhm.
in SS, yes, and in SS3, I was made the senior prefect of the school.
Wow.
And so, yes, and so even in the school, I was not really comfortable because I felt I didn't belong in that particular space, right? And so every of the things that I do is kind of extra, or let me say unique, let me use that word, right? In as much as I'm coming from a humble background, but I know that I have something, and I know that the school that I attend shouldn't hold me back, right? So that was how I struggled with the school. And that school actually contributed in making me who I am today. Yes. Now, reasons being that, okay, people believe that most people that come from government school don't really do much. And if you ask any African person, particularly in Nigeria, they will tell you that most of the government school students don't do well there. The teachers there do not really, prioritize students and all of those things. And so even there, I was just schooling because I needed to school, right? Then I was a science student, and I can tell you that until my SS3, I had not had an idea of what I wanted to study in my universities. No idea, nothing. Me, I only wanted to go to school, go to university, so that I would wear that khaki, that uniform, NYSC uniform, youth corps in my country. So I was so particular about that. I needed to go to the university. In as much as some of my siblings graduated from the university, but they were not really giving time and attention to some of us that are coming behind, right? And even in the school, I realized that the teachers were not even giving the students time. In fact, you don't even have conversation out of school. I mean, any conversation that you have has to be around school. So we were afraid to open up to teachers about our dreams and the things that we go through. And so it became a challenge, for me, to the extent that the year I graduated school, so normally when you're about to graduate school, you write JAM. Is an exams that when you want to go to the higher institution, you write. And so most students, they write the JAM, and they write it alongside their YA, that's their SSCE, so that when they graduate immediately, they will get admission in the higher institution. For me, I was not able to write JAM then. And the funny thing is that I wrote YA once, and before I could even write the YA, I had known that if I failed this YA, it's either I'll pay the next exams myself, or I'll have to wait till every other person finished, and then at their own convenience, before they'll be able to enroll me to be able to write another exams. And so I was praying hard so that I shouldn't fail the exams, because I needed to go to the university, right? So, and to the glory of God, I wrote the exams and I passed, and I stayed at home for a year. And while staying at home, a lot of things happened. And most of my peers then had gone to school, and I was the one, even though I was smart, but I was at home and I was doing nothing. So there's this level of low self-esteem that begin to, to came in, and then most times I'll be indoors. I find it very, very hard to even associate with the people that have gone to school, because I normally feel sad and feel bad about myself. But when I was in school, I helped my mom to sell fruit, right? Yes. And so we would carry it on the head, in a tray, and we would move around the street, just like you see normal African children do now. And yeah, and after school, I would carry it and go to sell. And one of those things that I think it's kind of interesting is the fact that when I was in primary school, the market that my mother usually sell is not far from the school. So whenever I'm going to school in the morning, my mom would pack my mufti clothes, my personal clothes to the market, right? So that when I close from school, I wouldn't need to come back home to change to go to the market to sell. So from school, I would just branch to the market and change and then take off what I'm supposed to sell. And then I'll mount the streets. And
So
yes,
did you ever sell to people that you went to school with? So did the people that you got to school with see you after school, changed from your uniform, wearing your clothes, selling fruits? Did you see the people that you went to school with?
a lot, a lot.
Mm.
Yes, so most of them know. Most of them know. And in fact, we would start going home together and then they will see me branch the market. And so it was normal because them two are coming from humble background. So it was normal, it's a normal thing. And so I wouldn't feel somehow. I'll just branch the market and do whatever I wanted to do. And one of the reasons I like that part is because the way I was raised and with the condition that we were in then, meal was a problem, right? Yes. So you would eat in the morning, and then by eating, I don't mean you eat real food in the morning. You take there's something our people call kunu, right? So you take kunu in the morning without bread or anything. No, you don't, yeah. So you take that in the morning and you go to school. And if you are opportune to go and sell that day, that's when you'll be able to eat in the afternoon. Do you understand? So if you're going to market that day, you know that your afternoon food is stable, is ready. And so and so I even though I knew that I was not supposed to be doing this. I mean, whenever I was going and I meet people from other school, private school coming, I usually hide. Sometimes I cross to the other side, and sometimes I look for somewhere to hide myself. And when they pass, then I will come out and begin to sell again. So it was affecting the way I was seeing myself, and I really struggled with that. I really struggled with that. But I knew it was one of those things that I had to do to be able to put food on the table. And so I did it anyways. And yeah, so there was a day when I was in primary school, I I absent myself from school. And the following day, when the teacher was, they usually flog us when you absent yourself from school. The next day, when you come without an excuse, they'll flog you. And so the teacher was asking what happened that I didn't come to school the previous day. And the reason that I was not in school was because I didn't eat a day before. You understand? And so there was no how I would go to school with an empty stomach. And so I deliberately refused to go to school that day because I was hungry and I would not be able to survive it. And so the teacher was flogging everybody, and it came to my turn. They asked me, I didn't want to say it, I refused, and she was trying to like flog me, and I opened my mouth and I said, the reason why I didn't come to school yesterday was because I slept with hunger the previous day, and that was how I was not able to come. And the whole class burst into laughter and everything, and she allowed me. So it was that chronic to the point that if you eat twice in a day, it's by the grace of God. And if you're able to eat thrice a day, oh my God. And now the funny thing is that you don't dare select the kind of things that you eat. Just the way eat. For instance, breakfast, there's a particular thing that you take, and lunch there's a particular thing, and dinner there's a no. In fact, you could eat tuwo, that's swallow. You could eat tuwo in the morning, and it was normal. It was normal. You understand? So growing up was crazy. It was crazy and interesting at the same time. So yeah. let me stop here first.
Oh, that's interesting. Joel, I think it's quite interesting that you've gone through all the things that you've gone through, and it has made you be passionate about changing the world and doing all that. Because usually when people have go through difficult things or experience the things that you've experienced, usually they just look down on themselves and they just keep their heads down for the rest of their lives. So my question for you is, you talked about how going through this thing sometimes made you feel a bit low, made you question your self-esteem. How did you navigate that? How did you develop the ability to see yourself as Joel, as God intended, not Joel who is sleeping without food, who is struggling with this, but the one that God created you to be? How did you navigate that and build the self-esteem and do all the things that you have since done?
Okay, so like I said earlier, after my secondary school, I was not able to go to school to the university immediately. And when I was home, I came across a book by Dr. Miles Monroe, and the name of the book is In Pursuit of Purpose, right? And so I was casually going through the book, and I learned a lot from the book. And one of those things that really changed my whole life is the fact that he mentioned in the book that you can be anything you think, or you can be anything that God wants you to be, regardless of where you're coming from. And also from the book, he shared his story, how that he came from a humble background and God helped him to be able to become who he has become, right? And so the book helped me, and I realized that even when I was not in school, and now something happened when I started reading. Whenever my peers come back home from school, I begin to contribute some of the things that I had learned from the book, and I was engaging, and I was, contributing. We're having a conversation, and at least I would have something to chip in. And so it makes me begin to develop this courage within me, seeing that someone who was born from a humble background, just the way I was, and then he grew up to be a person of influence and to become who God has, destined him to become. And so it inspired me to begin to dream big and to begin to see life beyond my locality and beyond my school and beyond my family background. And so I developed the interest for reading after I was done with secondary school. So since then, I started reading, and my confidence began to develop. And the things I do begins to change. So I no longer just do things because I am supposed to do them, but I do things with intention. And so now, coming to the real part now, the reason why I know that I was born for more is the fact that I was not contented with where I was. I was not contented with my school. I was not contented with my family background and the environment that I grew up in. And so it was at that moment. So after 3 years, then I traveled to Jos. Yes, when I traveled to Jos, I begin to mingle around people. So now, even while at home, I was writing, and I was writing inspirational write-ups, and I will write and I will post on Facebook, and people were like, yeah. And I also did spoken word, spoken word. And so out of the things that I write, they were coming from my experience and all of those things. And so when I came to Jos, I began to see young people like myself doing amazing things. They were confident, and then I joined a community of poets. Yes, I joined a community of poets, and it was then that I realized a lot of things. And I think the first time, the first time I went to a meeting and people were talking, I was like, oh, like I hope these people are not going to ask me to talk because I cannot talk. So yes, I was that timid. That's the fact. I was really that timid. And so the society, helped me to, develop self-confidence because I see the things that people do and the way they speak with confidence. And I was like, oh God, when will I learn how to do this? When will I learn how to, be myself and to speak with such confidence? And so thank God for community. And now, so, and again, one of those things that, let me just go back a little bit. When I was in secondary school, in my school, they have a particular sandal, right, that students normally wear, and it's a rubber sandal. So that rubber sandal is cheap. You understand? So it's cheap such that everybody can afford. And then there was a time that I came to school with a sandals that was more expensive than the other one they used in school. I mean, it was fashionable, but good, and the same color, everything. And I was flogged, like I was punished for bringing such a sandal to the school. Not because the sandal was not the color or the type that they wanted, but because they feel like I shouldn't wear that while other people are wearing cheap things. Do you understand? So now I'm trying to make you understand how our environment can also contribute to making us see ourselves as nothing. So if you're not careful, you begin to think that you do not deserve good things. You understand? And so our environment has a way of limiting who we should become and limiting our potential and also killing our dreams. Yes. So it was after I left my community that I knew that I was never going to be the same again. If you could take me back again to the question so that I'll just see the point before we proceed.
No. You have already answered my question. I think my question was, how did you manage to outgrow the environment that raised you? And I like that you mentioned my Dr. Miles' book In Pursuit of Purpose. I like his whole purpose series. Like I like how he's one people that really managed to unpack the concept of purpose. And I am so glad that you found your purpose because everybody is benefiting from you. And I am so happy that happened. So if we can then, you've now moved to Jaws, you've now joined the community of spoken words, poets and all that. How did you then launch and build Inspire and Impact Africa? How did that journey start?
Okay. Yeah, very interesting right now. So the reason why I moved to Jaws was a friend of mine called me for a work. So he called me to come and work in a poultry farm, right? Poetry, not poetry now, poetry, right? And so when I came, I started working in the poultry farm. And even while I was working, I was telling myself, Nansel, you don't belong here. Nansel, you don't belong here. And it was after, I think I worked for about 4 to 5 months like that. And then something happened that they needed to reduce people from the work. And I was part of those that were reduced, right? And so the manager of that company, or the manager of the poetry, he had invited me one time to their church. Now, the thing is, when I was there, if you're supposed to work on Sunday, you don't dare think about church. So, so the manager one time invited me to his church, and I went, and he introduced me to his pastor. Now, there was something about me. If you meet me, then you will know that this guy, there's something more about this boy. And so he introduced me to his pastor. And then after the whole thing happened and they called people off, he told me his pastor is looking for a security guard or someone who could help him in the house. And I said, yeah, I can do it since I just my work just left and I was doing nothing. So I didn't have the opportunity, I would have gone back to Lantern. Yes, and so the man took me to the pastor and I started working with the pastor. And few months after that, I told him I needed to go to school. And so he said, okay, it's a good idea because he's a pastor and also a medical doctor. And so, yes, I would enter his library and I would say a lot of things and I would say a lot of books and I was not myself anymore. And I told him I would want to go to school. And he said, it's fine. So after 4 months of working with him, I left. Now I had gathered some money with me, right? So I left. And when I left, I told my people at home, I said I was going to university and I was going to enroll into remedial sciences. Remedial sciences is a pre-degree, right? That give you an edge, to get admission and all of those things. So I enrolled into remedial sciences and I was staying around the school until 2020, the corona broke out and the school, vacate and all of those things were on break and all of that. So, and I would not be able to stay around school since there was no one. So I reached out to someone who is from my place and he was working as a security guard with their company somewhere. And I reached out to him. I said, now that school is on break and I wouldn't want to go back to Lantern. So is there a way he can like help me secure a security job somewhere? And he said, yeah, that I let him talk to his boss. And he spoke to his boss and he called me back and he said, yeah, there's an opportunity. So if I'll be able to come, I should just come. Then I rushed and I met him. And that was how I got the job. Now, from 2020 to 2021, where I wrote JAM, and I wrote JAM once again, and I was able to secure admission. Now, the whole thing, after securing admission, you know that I had gathered some money again from, even though it was few months, from the security work I was doing, and then school now had resumed, and I thought to myself, I said, if I leave this work, and I know my family is not financially stable, then I'm going to have problem with paying my school fees and doing everything that I need to do in school. And so I spoke to him again. I said, is there a way they can give me permanent nights such that I'll be working in the night and I'll be going to school in the daytime? And kind of enough, he said, no problem. He spoke to the boss again and they said, yeah, I can do it. So I started working as a security guard in the night and in the daytime, I would go to school. I did this for about 3 years. And then after the whole thing, strike chipped in my school, and then of course we vacate again, and I now went full time into the security work, and school resumed again, and I was doing the same thing, working in the night and going to school during the day. Now, by working in the night, what I mean by that is I would go to work by 5 p.m. and I would start working as a security guard. I would be at work. Sometimes they would give me 2 hours to go sleep since I was a student, and I would like gain some energy and probably read for a few minutes, right? And then I would come back again for work. So this continued for about 3 years. Yes, so I was like back to back. So sometimes I would go to school and I'll be, feeling sleepy and all of those things. And whenever lectures finished for the day, nobody would see me. I would just rush, try to go home so I can sleep for a few hours before I pass to work. So continuously for about 3 years. And now I had started that work 2 years and then I founded Inspire and Impact Africa. Now, why was the reason for Inspire and Impact Africa? Was the fact that young people like myself who are coming from humble backgrounds and from rural communities have something that God has given them. But the problem is that they do not have who to talk to, they do not have who to relate and share their ideas with, and to help them realize the potential and the gifts that they have. And so when I was in school, in fact, I had waited to finish school before starting Inspiring Impact Africa, but God told me no, categorically, that I should start because there are young people that are waiting for that opportunity, to be able to break out of their mediocre mindset and to be able to thrive. And so I started Inspire Impact Africa when I was doing that work, when I was going to school, and then I was running a lot of things like that. Now, one of the reasons that I was really into that work was because it was helping me to finance Inspire and Impact Africa. And somehow God was helping me to be able to, keep myself in school and to be able to continue working and then running Inspire and Impact Africa. And so from there, I think it was early this year that I left the security job. So with the whole of the things that I was doing, nobody knew, just a few persons knew that I was working as a security guard in the night. So you would see me, I would meet young people and inspire them, and then I would go to work in the night to work as a security guard. But I didn't allow this limit the potential that I have because I know I was born for more. And being a security guard was not the bus stop at all. At all. So I was using that to finance my dream. In fact, when I go to work, everybody knows I have books in my bag. Aside my academic books, I have personal development books. I was building myself. In fact, they call me prof where I work as a school. They call me prof. But they didn't understand. They didn't understand. One of those things that I think that can help you apart from meeting physical people are books. Yes. So books were building me, they were shaping me while I was there. And in fact, sometimes they will even give me query, like they will query me for bringing books. They will say, see, you're not here for that. But I said to them, I'd rather sacrifice the time I will sleep because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not going to be here forever. So if I leave this place, what's next? And of course, with the course that I got in school, it was not the course that I applied for. And so the energy was not there, even though I was trying to, find my foot and everything, but the energy was not there. And so I told them, I said, see, I'm not going to stay in this creative work forever. So you people should not think that because I'm here, I'm not. So in the afternoon, they would see me post pictures of myself with young people, speaking to young people on my status. And in the night, they'll see me at the security work. So a lot of things, mix of energy and all of those things. But then, like I said, I didn't allow this temper with my potential and the work that God has called me to do. So yeah.
That's amazing, Joel. I think it takes a lot of strength. One of my guests is this phenomenal young man who was studying at Oxford. He is from Zimbabwe, and he talked about how when he had finished his A levels, the family didn't have money to send him to university, and he had to illegally cross the border to go to South Africa and work as a security guard. And I used to joke with him. I'm like, you were quite a short young man. How did you do that? Did they give you guns? Did they give you baton sticks? And he was laughing at me, and he said, because I could read and write, I ended up helping a lot of people. And fast forward 6 years later, he's graduating at the best university in the world. So I'm always inspired when I hear young men who are pushing themselves to the limits, to go after their dreams despite the context. And I think that there is somebody who is watching us who was inspired, that, you know what, I could actually work and actually pursue my dreams. So thank you for sharing that story. And thank you for enduring it. Thank you for doing it. And thank you for starting Inspire Africa so that you can equip other young people as well. So I know that you are still currently studying and doing work with Inspire Africa. So tell us what's next for you, Joel? What are you hoping for? What are your big dreams? What's next for you?
Okay, so the goal is I want to, as much as possible, bring young people out of the limiting mindset that they have. And in fact, whenever we have a conference and I speak to young people, I share my story with them and they're inspired by that story. And so there's this level of confidence that they gain, knowing that someone who was born and brought up in my community, and would become what God has wanted him to become, even though this is not the bus stop. I am praying to God that after my school, I would have time to travel to rural African countries to speak to young people and to help them realize that they have a purpose and they can be anything that God wants them to become. Yes. Yes, and so Inspire and Impact Africa is not just for my community, it's not just for Jos, it's not just for Plateau State, but it's for the whole of Africa. And it's for young people that are trying to find their votes. It's for young people that have limiting mindset, that think that their background should hold them back. It's for young people that don't have the level of confidence to be able to speak out, to be able to realize their potential and purpose. So Inspire and Impact Africa is not just any kind of an organization, but is a movement. It's a movement on its own. And I think that, like I mentioned earlier, it's an assignment for me. And I'm doing it with the whole of my heart, with the whole of my mind, and with all of the strength that I have. Because the Bible says that it is good for a young man, there's this part of the Bible says it's good for a young man uh to work or something like that while he is young, right? And so I believe that at this point of my life, it's an opportunity for me to do the work that God has given me. I do not know how tomorrow is going to be like. It's up to God, but I live every day. And of course, I have plans for tomorrow, but I'm not the one in charge of how my tomorrow is going to be like as much as I have planned. And that's why I live every day with intention. I live every day with intention. And whenever I speak to young people, I tell them, today is your future. Don't wait till tomorrow before you begin to realize. In fact, some of my mates, I see a lot of my mates, a lot of my peers, I tell them, I said, see, if you think you can wait for you to finish school before you begin to do the things that God has called you to do, I think at some point in time, you are questioning God's purpose for your life. In as much as it is important to have a university degree, to gain all of the experience and all of those things, I think it is also important that you ask God questions about yourself and realize the things that you're supposed to do in this world. Now, there are a lot of people that God has called them into academia, to live in that and, influence that territory and inspire people and fulfill their purpose doing that. But there are also people that they are called not to be in the academia. And so you find people finishing university, and that's when they begin to build themselves in the areas that God has called them. And so I thank God for giving me the grace and the strength to be able to combine these two, so that if I stand in front of young people, I will tell them I have a degree. Some of these things that people brag about, that I have a degree in so and so. And so it's also an encouragement. It's also an encouragement. And so, yeah, Inspire and Impact Africa, I believe that in the next few years, we are going to be in most of the African countries. Now, our target is rural communities and young people who don't really know who they are and trying to find their identity. And so that's what we're up to with Inspire and Impact Africa. And as time goes on, we are planning, on having a training, which is that after equipping them with the necessary information. So it's not just about inspiration, right? So we help them with the things that they need to be able to try. For instance, we help them with skills acquisition, like things like things like, this, what's it called, soft skills. You understand? Yeah, developing confidence and all of these things. It may interest you to know that some of these students or some of these young people in these communities, they do not really know what is purpose or potential. If you ask them what is purpose, they don't know. Like they don't know what they're supposed to do with their life, nothing.
Thanks,
Right?
Joel. That's amazing. And I think if you were already on that path, you were
Yeah.
already on your way there. And I have no doubt that God will take you there and He will take you to even greater heights. We have come to the end of our conversation, and this is the part where I give everyone an opportunity to be a motivational speaker for 2, 3 minutes. This is the part where I ask you and put you on the spot, and I say to you, Joel, what lessons have you learned? I know you've been dropping nuggets about purpose and all that, but this is the opportunity for you to bring it all together and leave us some parting shots. Some of the things that you say, Petronella, these are some of the most important lessons that I've learned. These are some of the parting shots that every dreamer should have. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned on your journey that you would want to leave with us today?
I think that young people should be able to open up, right? As much as some of them lack the confidence to open up to people, so I think that they should be able to develop that at least little confidence to be able to open up to people, whatever they feel or the dreams that they have. And one of the things, again, that I learned throughout my journey is the fact that you can be anything that God wants you to be, regardless of your background, regardless of your educational background, regardless of the environment that you come from, in as much as they have their own limitation. But you can actually become something with the proper information, with the proper guidance, and with the proper, mentorship. Right. So while growing up, I didn't have anybody I look up to as a mentor. It was when I began to read that I realized that I need to reach out to some people. And so young people should be able to, go out there and experience things for themselves, to learn things for themselves, to meet people that are even older than them. Yes, so you have to be able to break that mindset of saying, I'm from a particular place. There's nothing that is gonna come out from such an environment. You have to kill that mindset. And of course, young people must know that their destiny is in their hands. And the choices that you make today is the ones that are going to make you the person that you become tomorrow. I had every opportunity to become the things that the environment or the society wanted me to become, but I deliberately choose not to do that. And so choices are one of those things that we must be deliberate about. We must be able to make deliberate choices about our life.
You had it from Joel, guys. You need to be intentional with the choices that you make. One of my favorite sayings is life is a sum total of all the choices that you've made. So when all is said and done, you become the choices that you made. Someone once said that when you are born looking like your parents, but you will die looking like the choices and the decisions that you've made. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Joel, for that wonderful piece of advice. You had it from a young man who is actively working to change the world and his environment. And to everybody else, no, before I conclude, Joe, I just want to say thank you for coming on today and sharing your story with us. We are so proud of the work that you're doing, and we wish you the absolute best. I have no doubt that God will take you to even greater heights.
Amen. Thank you so much. I really appreciate.
Okay, and everybody else, thank you for joining us today as we had an opportunity to sit down with the one and only Mr. Wordsmith Joel. He told us the story, going to school without eating sometimes, selling things in the streets, and going through the most, working as a security guard at night while studying during the day. And today he is the proud founder of Inspire and Impact Africa. He has done so much and he will continue doing so much more. So thank you so much for watching. And if this is the kind of conversation that interests you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button, because every 2 weeks we platform a dreamer and you get to hear all the amazing stories. So don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification button, and don't forget to tell somebody to tell somebody. Until next time.